Well, the conflicts in Yemen broke, as you mentioned, about a decade ago now, because of the Houthis. The Houthi are a proxy group working for the Islamic Republic of Iran. They took over Yemen's capital back in 2015-12, and in 2015, Saudi Arabia retaliated, perceiving that there was a danger for its sovereignty, given the fact that the Houthi were intent on attacking Saudi Arabia and potentially absorbing several provinces in the south of Saudi Arabia, and that couldn't stand with King Salman, so he retaliated. And here we are, 10 years later, nothing has been resolved. There's been countless peace resolutions put on the table. The Houthi have systematically refused. They're not in the business of making peace. What they want is to exert power. They want to siphon Yemen's natural resources. There are many. And the country has suffered tremendously. Because of it, 90% of Yemen find itself in need of humanitarian aid, and things are getting from bad to worse. Now, on the backdrop of this, sorry to interrupt you. On the backdrop of this, obviously, the Houthis have decided now to retaliate against Israel and Western capitals by attacking ships in the Red Sea. And this is allegedly to support the Palestinian cause, when we know that actually what they're doing is support yet another proxy of the Islamic Republic, Hamas. So this is the situation that we are in today.
Now, anti-Israel protesters around the world seem to be equating the Houthis with Yemen. Explain why that is incorrect.
Well, first of all, most Yemeni would take offense at this, in the sense that they feel that they have been robbed of their democracy and the hope of a functioning democracy at that. Because of the Houthis, they decided to, again, hijack the Yemeni capital, take over the country, and plunge Yemen in a civil war, and also a conflict with Saudi Arabia that has ruined Yemen and set it back decades in terms of development. People are starving. So no, the Houthis are not, they are Yemeni, but they do not represent the wishes of the people. By the same token, you could argue that Hezbollah in Lebanon does not represent the wishes of the Lebanese people in large. And what they're doing is an act of terrorism against the sovereignty of Lebanon. Same thing with Hamas and Palestinians in Gaza. They live under the thumb of Hamas, and I'm pretty sure that many of them would like to be freed of this terrorist organization. So no, but I can understand why, people in this woke agenda that they have are willing to lump up people together and assume that because someone is claiming to be fighting for freedom, that it makes it true. It is not. There is a way and a manner in which you could fight for democracy and freedom and liberation. Using terrorism is not one of those. Also, when a group such as the Houthi walks around bearing the slogan, "Death to America, death to the Jews," I'd like to think that people should take offense. Clearly, they don't. I don't know whether they have post-traumatic stress or what it is about them that they can't see that this is a terrorist organization, just as Hamas is, just as Hezbollah and many others. And I don't understand why they're supporting them. They are not representing Yemen. This is very clear. Yemeni will tell you themselves.
How have Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea impacted international shipping at this point? And what can we expect to come next in terms of an international response?
It's been rather catastrophic. I mean, several companies have had to divert towards South Africa because they do not want to run into the Houthis. It's an act of piracy and an act of terrorism. Now, insurance company, are putting prices up. This is putting tremendous pressure on energy markets and other markets as a result of it. And in my mind, this is an act of war. At which point do you draw the line and decide that a terrorist attack against clearly U.S. interest, British interest, Israeli interest, Western interest, the world's interest, constitute an act of terrorism? The Houthi have made it clear that they intend to do it again and again and again because they feel like it, and no one has had the courage to hurt them where it actually matters, in the sense that, yes, we have had U.S. strikes and UK strikes, but it's not even, touching the side. It's not doing anything, into forcing the Houthis to come back to the table and have a discussion. Now, you could also make the argument that we should not argue with terrorism, that actually by engaging with them, we're giving them exactly what they want, which is an international platform and some resemblance of legitimacy by giving them a voice and a seat at the table and basically recognizing that they do matter. I'd like to think that we have learned from what is happening in the world, from acts of terrorism. We should not engage with terrorist groups other than to accuse them of terrorism and recognizing them as such and dealing with them according to international law. That hasn't happened. And role in Russia deciding to come to the defense of the Houthis by saying that the UNSC did not sign off on the strike that the US and the UK perpetrated against the Houthis, which is a fallacy. Because it's an act of violence and an act of war against sovereign nations and their interests. And so they are perfectly entitled to self-defense, just as Israel is entitled to self-defense against Hamas and others.